So, what's our real value in a world where AI can do, well, pretty much anything? We're going to dive into a case study today that tackles that exact question. It's really a story about how human strategy, that unique creative spark, is still the most important thing, especially when it comes to persuasion.
All right, check this out. I love this quote. It's the whole philosophy behind a company called Stagecraft Consulting. The founder, after like 20 years in the business, realized presentations aren't just slides. Nope, they're performances. And that single idea, thinking like a director, that became everything for his brand.
But here's where it gets interesting. What happens when AI can build that whole stage in just a few seconds? And that's exactly the problem that popped up. By 2025, AI was spitting out entire presentations instantly. You had tutorials, templates, you name it. And suddenly, this really thoughtful human approach, this idea of directing, it felt, well, kind of slow. How on earth do you compete with the sheer speed of automation, right?
Okay, so here's the setup. Stagecraft Consulting is gearing up to launch this new personal brand, Direct Like a Director with AI PPT. Cool name. But the market was just flooded, absolutely saturated with AI tools. They knew that just another how-to guide on using some new software, that wasn't going to fly. It just wouldn't cut through the noise. They needed a completely different angle.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. You've got the director's mindset on one side. It's all about story, emotion, persuasion, the human stuff. And then on the other side, you've got the AI default. What's that about? Speed, automation, templates. And there's this huge gap between what the tools were churning out and what people actually needed to be effective.
Now, the founder knew he was onto something big, but a good gut feeling, well, that's not a business plan, is it? So instead of just throwing it out there and crossing his fingers, he did something smart. He teamed up with a strategy firm called Astipica. The goal? To take this personal philosophy and turn it into a real, solid strategy that could actually compete.
Together, they decided to tackle three critical questions. First, who are we actually helping with this? Who does this really serve? Second, how do we talk about this so it's crystal clear what makes us different? And third, how do we set this up so it can actually grow for the long haul? Getting answers to these was absolutely non-negotiable before they could move an inch.
So they came up with this really practical launch map. It wasn't just theory. They used something called STP analysis to figure out exactly where to compete, to find their little corner of the market. And then they used the jobs to be done framework. This is so key. It's about understanding why people really care, what deep down problem they're trying to solve, not just the surface level stuff they might say they want.
And through all this digging, they found something. Something big. It was this massive blind spot that pretty much every AI toolmaker out there was completely missing. A huge, gaping hole in the market. Here it is, the big aha moment. Their research showed that everyone, literally everyone, was obsessed with the wrong thing. The whole industry was in a race to make slide creation faster and faster and faster. But you know what? Speed wasn't the actual problem. The AI was solving for the wrong thing. When you look at the data, it's so clear. The team mapped out the AI plus PPT world, and what they found was this huge gap. On the one hand, AI tools were off the charts for efficiency, super fast. But on the other hand, persuasion. It was way down here. And persuasion is what people actually needed to, succeed. So what was happening? People were getting these beautiful slides that looked great, but just fell flat. They didn't make any real impact. And this was the absolute game changer. The real value wasn't teaching people how to click the buttons in the AI tool. It wasn't about the execution at all. It was about teaching them how to think like a director before they even open the app. The real opportunity was to teach a mindset, a way of thinking that guides the whole process from the very start. The AI tool, that's just the last step in the chain. Okay, so numbers on a chart are great, but to make sure this wasn't just a theory, they had to go talk to real people. They got in the trenches. They did interviews, they ran focus groups with leaders, with creatives, even with hardcore AI power users. They wanted to hear about their actual day-to-day struggles. And you know what they found? In every single one of those conversations, the exact same tension kept popping up. It was this universal thing. Everyone was saying, yeah, of course I want to be faster. But what they really, truly wanted was influence. They wanted to make an impact. They wanted to persuade people. And the tools they were using, they just weren't helping with that second, much more important part. So you hear things like this, and this was so common. The AI was great at spitting out stuff, output, but it couldn't create meaning. It could pull together a bunch of facts, sure, but it couldn't weave them into a story that actually connects with a human being. So the final presentation just felt empty. Or this one, another huge frustration. You could have slides that looked fantastic on their own, but when you tried to deliver the whole thing, the story just crumbled. It didn't hang together. So instead of one powerful, cohesive argument, you're just left with a random collection of points.
And this one really hits home. I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it? You can have the most beautiful, most perfectly designed slide generated in 2 seconds flat, but if it doesn't do its job in that crucial meeting, it's basically worthless. And that's where you see the painful difference between just being efficient and actually being effective.
So all these real-world frustrations led them to create this super practical sequence. It's a framework that puts human thinking first, right where it belongs. Step 1, start with your audience and your intent. What do you need them to think, feel, or do? Step 2, build the narrative spine. That's the core story that connects everything. Step 3, plan the rhythm, the pacing, the emotion. Where does it get exciting? Where do you reveal the big idea? And then, and only then, when that human vision is totally locked in, do you bring in the AI to help you execute it?
So, as we start to wrap this up, the big takeaway here is that the final strategy was never about being anti-AI. Not at all. It was about putting AI in its rightful place, as an incredibly powerful assistant that serves a clear human-driven vision.
And that's why the Direct Like a Director brand succeeded. It worked because it didn't even try to play the fastest slide generator game. Nope, it chose to compete on a totally different playing field, a deeply human one. It was all about the strategy, the emotion, the storytelling, all the thinking that has to happen before you even type a single prompt into an AI.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question for all of us, right? In a world where AI is getting better and better at handling the what and the how of our work, maybe our real, lasting value isn't about which tools we've mastered. Maybe it's all about the quality, the clarity, and the creativity of how we think.